Welcome back for round two of Modern Mondays here at Guardian Games. We are Portland Paper. I am Curran Delahanty, joined by,
Ian Lunger.
and we are in round two again here. This time it's Bant Stoneblade versus Amulet Titan. We have Azorius in there. We'll get that
Gotcha.
changed up. Perfect. All right.
Who do you like in this matchup, Curran?
I very much like Amulet Titan. I think in this deck, I think it's resilient enough of a combo, or it can go on a long game plan of like Field of the Dead if there's too many counters that Bant throws out. But I just think Amulet Titan's more equipped to go over the top in the end.
Yeah, and interesting that Curran or Ezra, excuse me, is on a list that's playing Ancient Stirrings. There have been some lists lately that have decided to not play Ancient Stirrings and instead have just gone the Once Upon a Time route. Um, I think I think it's fine to play all 8 cantrips. I think the deck makes enough mana that it's reasonable to do that. Um, as we're realizing that because of the bounce land, actually had to discard a card at the end of turn, tossing a summoner's back.
Yep.
That's not a good feeling when you play this deck. Um,
Goldel coming down here. Aggressive. I like it. Yeah, I will be interested to see what kind of play that Jason brings to the table as far as like disruption. How the field going right at the farm.
yeah, that's another way that you can get punished on Amulet if you have to drop the bounce land early with no Amulet in play. I think Ezra pretty unlucky not to hit an Amulet with 2 Ancient Stirrings. Unless did he hit one on the last one?
I don't know. I don't believe he did.
Yeah, that's a lot of cards to go through in the deck without seeing an Amulet.
Yeah, because he
Yeah,
hit the Boros Garrison, as I recall.
yeah, that's actually pretty awful to have Stirring twice and still not hit.
Is there a discard there too, or?
This is what a win can look like for Jason, though.
Yeah, I mean this is a very very slow start here. Jason Mind Sculptor. Uh, did he
Um,
take one off the waterlogged or?
I'm gonna remind players that they can use the.
Yeah, the thing. Yeah.
You can do it on your own as well, but just
Okay, cool. So we got life totals updated there. Um, let's use a lost but seeking. Can't force of negate that. 2 lands and pass.
So I can definitely see the appeal in Ezra's Keep. I think, keeping the stirrings, hoping to hit an amulet, knowing that the hand it has the Azusa, so it has the acceleration, and it has threats obviously because Ezra fine with discarding a summoner's pact.
Yeah, it was just pretty unlucky that the stirrings didn't do
Right.
it.
It'll be interesting to see if Ezra puts premium on finding a Cavern of Souls before starting to jam Titans. I actually think you probably have to at this point, as Jason was basically able to set up shop here and has a Jace. So I don't think you're gonna beat. I don't think you're gonna beat Jason here by trying to play like Titan in a turn and then another Titan the next turn. I bet that Jason will have the counter magic for that. So we have a stream deck that I have connected to our graphics life totals in the program that we use for streaming. And so the players have a stream deck out there that shows them life totals, and they can increase or decrease life total numbers, and it updates our graphic. So it was not a thing we had for a while, and it took some thinking to figure it out. But yeah, we have a way to
Yeah,
do it now.
I remember when you guys introduced that. Definitely a quality of life improvement as far as being a player under the Portland paper stream.
Yeah, it's also nice for the booth in that there's far less moments where we get the life totals wrong and other things like that.
So it looks like we're just going in. Uh,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
it
So it actually
resolved.
resolves here. That is, I mean, I guess Jason was sitting on the Force of Negations. It definitely makes Ezra's play to get rid of the Summoner's Pact instead of the Titan look very good. I think that's probably right in all cases. Um,
Just ran in there Leroy Jenkins style. I'm super glad to see
so
it resolve.
Titan gets pathed with the trigger on the stack, so Ezra will be able to first find a basic. Have a good night, Fuzzy Too Wuzzy. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Ezra will be able to find a basic first. Should probably get a snow-covered forest here, as there's a normal forest in play, and it's going to potentially matter for Field of the Dead. In fact, if Ezra wants to get zombie triggers, you would get the... So this is going to matter for ordering. Ezra should get the snow-covered forest first, and then should get the 2 lands. So I'm actually going to...
Oh, yeah.
because Jason path in response to the trigger. Well, we're gonna let Ezra do it.
You,
Okay, Jason is reminding him. So Jason has let Ezra know. So if Ezra wanted to instead do it another way to get Field of the Dead triggers, that would be allowable here. Yeah, agreed. Hi, kid. I think that's. I mean, we don't see Ezra's hand, so it can't be certain that that was the right move. But I definitely think that would have been a strong play to start to put Ezra back in this game to have gotten 2 zombies on board, as it allows Ezra to start pressuring this Jace. And I think a one match. I don't think there's a way that Ezra's going to win this match without making use of kind of the card advantage that Field gives you, virtual card advantage. Excuse me.
brainstorm with Jace. Find other possible cards to deal with whatever comes
Right.
next.
Yeah. Good point. Chaining Titans is going to be. High kid notes that chaining Titans is going to be difficult here. I don't think. I mean, Ezra probably is not aware of the forces, but yes, if Ezra is thinking that he's going to try and chain T West into Pact, Summoner's Pact to get Titans, that plan is not going to work out well against what Jason has.
Not
I
at
think
all.
the fact that that first Titan resolved without a cavern is like almost a miracle on its own. And yeah, Jason being able to drop a Teferi here. Active Teferi and Jace. I don't think Ezra's going to beat that even with a field, as I think Jason probably has access to more Field of Ruins and should be able to find them to keep Field of the Dead from getting out of hand.
5-drop to fairy. Gotta love it.
Yeah, it looks like we came in for 2 there.
Amulet.
So this is
Okay.
kind of a bait spell, and that does get the force, which is good for Ezra. It gets at least 1 force. This clears the way for a Titan, and that's good. Interesting.
Yeah,
So
going in for the Slayer's Stronghold plan, it looks like.
yeah, so Ezra did. I mean, it's solid that Ezra did have the. Ezra just had the straight up Titan in hand. Yeah, didn't have to pact for it. It's going to be very helpful here. We are going to get field triggers here. And if Jason doesn't have a path, then we're going to end up with at least 4 zombies on board.
I'm pretty sure Jason does have another path in hand, though. I thought I saw it go by earlier.
There's no mana up, though.
Yeah, no. I mean, this Primeval Titan's gonna get to connect and do a bunch of fun things before Jason will ever get the opportunity to path it.
This is actually huge. So, yeah, Ezra can swing with the Titan.
Get more Feel of the Dead
Yeah,
triggers.
most players are not playing two fields main as far as I know, but Ezra can get the Vesuva to copy field to kind of get some insurance against Field of Ruin from Jason's side. So if I'm Ezra, I'm Vesuving the Field of the Dead.
And that's exactly what happened there. That's Vesuva that's a little off screen.
And then possibly getting a T-West.
I don't know what that second I can kind of see it in this frame. There we are.
It's a Gruul
Gruul
turf, which is going to let... I guess what you probably want to do now is you just hold a bounce land in hand. Probably just return the Gruul turf to your hand. And then if you do find an Azusa or any other kind of like a Sakura Tribe Scout, you can just use that bounce land to create zombies. To make sure that you always have lands available to create zombies.
All right.
So there should have been a bounce trigger. Did you see if Ezra...
I think one of the Simic Growth Chambers is back in his hand, because that's what he used to pay for the castle.
Yep.
Yep. It did get returned. Alright, Brainstorm off Jace again.
So Ezra clearly did not attack a walker. I think I'm going to remind players about the life totals one more time. There's a lot to keep track of out there, so I can understand.
Yeah. Alright, updating life totals now, so things make a little bit more sense. Ezra put himself to 7. Is that correct? Okay, there we go. Now we kind of know what's going on. And Jason's just scooping. Okay. Back to 20.
So, yeah, crazy. Ezra with what I felt like was like a ton of stumbling early that game, and still manages to come back and win. It just shows you like the immense power of the Titan deck in the late game if you can actually resolve the namesake card.
We can grab sideboards for this one, but I can imagine that Jason's reaching for any copies of Supreme Verdict he might have. Just because, yeah, how does this deck deal with Field of the Dead? Like Clog, right?
Yeah. So interesting. I saw that Jason had Lavinia Azorius Renegade in sideboard, which is a card that I did not see him bring in. It's a card that I think might surprise people that I actually think is a decent sideboard choice against Amulet Titan. So taking a look at Lavinia, the text that matters is whenever opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell.
That's absurd.
A lot of the way that the Titan deck finds Titans is through chaining pacts, and that's a lot of the way that it continues to get Titans into play, is by chaining pacts. And this card not only applies some pressure potentially, but also stops the pack chaining from happening. And I think a win for Jason in this match looks like being able to kill Ezra before he can start to get too much Titan chaining on time or online and get too many Field of the Deads in play. So I think Lavinia could be a small part of cracking the code and getting a win if you're on Jason's side.
Makes sense.
Agreed too. If Jason is playing Ashiok is a complete house against Amulet. So would definitely recommend bringing in something like Ashiok. I think paths are great in the matchup. And then it's possible that you want to side out like a few Force of Negations if you're playing like the full set, but the card has a lot of value in the matchup. Snagging an early Amulet, I do think, is worthwhile.
Absolutely.
It looked really mopey that last matchup, but just kind of unlucky for Jason that Ezra kind of had everything needed with multiple Titans in hand.
Yeah. Well, game one kind of went as I had thought it would going into this matchup, but I'm curious to see, yeah, what Jason has access to as far as Ashiok or Supreme Verdicts or just like different things that can moreover answer whatever Ezra builds up to.
Yeah, and I also think, in this week one, kind of like week one post ban meta, I think Amulet Titan is a great place to be because again, we talked about players love to kind of play their mid-range piles after a banning because, it lets you play have a lot of game actions and you get to make a lot of decisions and you get to kind of like play all these mid-rangey cards that players enjoy. And Amulet Titan just eats mid-range decks for lunch.
Oh, yeah. Every day. Turn one Sakura
Yeah,
Tribe Scout.
K-Pons, welcome. Welcome. Welcome to the Amulet Stronghold. So another tough thing about playing Bant in this matchup is when the Amulet player drops a Sakura Tribe Scout, there is some pressure to deal with that card, but most of your answers are things like Path to Exile,
Right.
which ramp the opponent. So it can be a really difficult choice if you're on Jason's side trying to figure out is it worth it to path this card or can
Is
I
it gonna
survive
go
leaving
down
it in play?
trouble? Yeah.
And I think most of the time the right choice is to leave the creature in play and deal with keeping the Titan from coming out or like I don't think it's worth it to try and constrain the Amulet player on mana per se a lot of the time, although with a Damping Sphere I could see it being a better plan.
Yeah, Damping Sphere looking pretty good right now.
Damping Sphere also a great sideboard card in this matchup, but kind of similar to playing Blood Moon against Tron. It's not going to be enough if you're not applying pressure to the Amulet player. You will still lose to Amulet if you're just going to sit back and play land go against them, even with the Damping Sphere.
Throwing down the West.
So
Summoner's
this
Pact
is
going for the Reclamation Stage.
extremely bold by Ezra. Um, if I'm Jason and I have a Cryptic in hand, I let this resolve.
And then tap you down. Well,
Oh
no.
no,
No,
Ezra will
that's
be able
tap
to get.
creatures.
Ezra will be able to get through.
So this
I was gonna say
is.
you could bounce one of his green sources and he might not be able to play it, but actually, with the scout being available, Ezra would be able to pay for the pact in any case.
Alright, so there's the pack going into the garbage bin after it got force negation.
Why do you think? Why do you think Jason didn't just cast the force of negation? Why do you think?
Probably to flash something else in.
Okay.
That's okay. That's a path to exile.
So
is there
Curran, could you remind Ezra to search, please?
is damping sphere anything that stops that?
No.
Just
Yeah.
want to check.
Ezra should search here off the path.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And Snake should be exiled as well.
And Snake should be exiled. The Snake should be exiled. Oh yeah. Thanks.
Yes. And Ezra correctly getting the snow-covered forest. I think it's one of those things that like players weren't really used to this like split of basics until relatively recently. But definitely should be on your mind whenever you're getting your creatures kind of like pathed or whenever you're fetching when you're playing these Field of the Dead decks is you want to make sure you have a normal basic and a snow-covered basic out of every type that you can to accelerate yourself towards Field of the Dead.
Did he just rip prime time? Nah.
I think he
Only
had.
in my dreams. Wait, you think he has one in hand?
I thought he did. I think it would be surprising for Ezra to have used the Summoner's Pact earlier for what I felt like was like prematurely.
Well, he's got prime time in hand. Yeah, I do see that now. And a West, it looks like, to transmute with.
And we may see Jason's play of Force of Negation pitch Mana Leak come back to bite him potentially if Ezra decides to fire off the Titan and doesn't have extra mana.
This borrower has gone full aggro mode.
Yeah,
And
I'm
I
in.
appreciate
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Swing.
I think it's the right choice.
Swing, batter, swing. Let's go.
Yeah, if you're Jason, you need to work on getting this game over with.
Here we go. Another Summoner's Pact. So Rex Sage, right? That's probably the grab.
Yes.
Yep. Alrighty.
Of note, this Rex Sage will cost 4 to fire off, so the Damping Sphere tax will apply, which I believe will make it so Ezra should not be able to cast the Titan this turn.
Not this turn, no, but at least the Damping Sphere will be gone in an ideal world. Let's see if it happens.
And
roll that counter down.
Yeah, Ezra will need to take a counter off the... Calling a judge over.
We have a judge call. Okay.
Oh, so Jason probably has a Disdainful Stroke in hand.
Oh.
So wondering if Disdainful Stroke is allowed to be used here because 4 was paid for the card. However, Disdainful Stroke looks at the CMC when it goes on the stack, and Rex Sage CMC when it goes on the stack is 3. So Disdainful Stroke cannot be used to counter Rex Sage in this instance.
All right. Well, I'm going to go tell him to roll a die off the gemstone mine. Give me a second.
Thank you. Ezra's going to go ahead and transmute here. I imagine we will see another Summoner's Pact. Another Summoner's Pact. So we're going to have kind of that weird moment. Hopefully Ezra will just remember to pay down his pact at the beginning of next turn, but pact rules got changed.
Pact rules are on the opponent. The opponent has to remind them now too.
Right. Which is it's actually very awkward. It can make for some actual like gotcha moments if the opponent. It's weird because.
Well, you used to be able to actually win
Yes.
off the player having pact, not remembering pact. I remember there was a strategy actually built in Legacy around that. The 6-drop enchantment Hive Mind. You show and tell that in, and then you put a Pact Titan on the thing in your pass. Like
right, and they don't have the right mana color to pay for it.
Yeah, that. But also like you could always tell a Hive Mind player like you lost, you forgot to pay your pack trigger. Like
so. and the new rules for it are when the opponent reminds you of your pact, that's when the pact goes on the stack. So technically, if Jason wanted to, if Ezra doesn't pay for this pact, Jason could um,
Oh,
Jason could wait for Ezra to like play something, and then
God.
Ezra needs to remember to take that counter down. Could wait for Ezra to play something, and then could remind Ezra of the pact when they did not have mana up.
Let's see if I stand up. Is that going to be enough?
And land for turn.
Gemstone down to 1.
I can understand this. There's a lot of stuff to keep track of when you're trying to think of amulet lines, and I myself have played this deck on camera, and also just like little things get forgotten easily when you're super hyper focused on trying to play this deck optimally. Jason gets in. I mean, this Brazen Borrower with a Noble Hierarch out is a real clock. Ezra is at 6 land types currently, so the next land drop, if it is something different, will trigger field and put some zombies on board.
Yeah.
And kind of, unless Jason can find another Noble Hierarch, Ezra's has plenty of time, sitting on 3 more turns.
That Brazen Borrower has been bringing the beats, though, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. I think definitely the
it.
right choice for Jason to run that out ASAP.
All right, so here's a counter spell.
And we know that Jason has a Disdainful Stroke in hand. Ezra possibly could have sniffed it out based on the question that was asked the judge.
He probably sniffed it out, but it looks like he's going to run it out here anyway. No.
Yeah.
No, thank
so
you.
Disdainful
Send
Stroke catches the Titan here. So we get a zombie.
1 zombie.
And Ezra can get busy here. We've got Slayer's Stronghold up.
Make that zombie hasty. Oh, nope. The Rex Sage coming in for 4. Yep. I think we're gonna see a turnaround in the race here very shortly.
Yeah, if Jason can hit another Noble Hierarch and can come in for 5 this turn and then come in for lethal next turn, I think Jason can win this game. But I think if we don't see this 3-turn clock close to a 2-turn clock, I think that Ezra's going to manage to squeak this out.
Brazen coming in for 4 because it can't do anything to block on the ground anyway. Might as well keep striving for the dream. Alright, so what do we have planned for this turn? We got a Once Upon a Time. Find that Titan. Do it.
Take a look at 5 cards. Looks like no Titan, yeah.
Azusa seems really good given the Field of the Dead in play.
Yep. Yeah, Azusa is very strong with that bounce land in hand. Again, it's all about whether Jason can find another Noble Hierarch or some way to push in that 1 point of extra damage to put that Brazen Borrower up to 5 points of damage next turn. I think Ezra's going to be able to flood the board this turn, probably have lethal the following turn.
Going for 4. Yep. Up 2 more damage. Go.
Ooh,
oh.
I like this. So Ezra was trying to kind of like bait out Jason's action, and Ezra kind of flinched first there and ended up using the Slayer Stronghold on the Rex Sage, and Jason able to path to save a good bit of damage.
But you have to wonder, that might have been Ezra's plan too, was like, hopefully I can get a path out of here. Oh yeah, the Amulet brings the path land in untapped. That's pretty sweet.
Yes, so that will mean that now Azusa can get played, and then, yeah.
Bounce Gemstone, put a counter on, pass turn.
So, why did Ezra not play the...
Azusa?
Yeah.
That is something I'm not sure of either. Teferi
So what does Teferi do here?
bounces a
Because this could make the. I
zombie.
mean, Jason's at 8. So if Ezra had an Azusa plus 2 extra zombies,
Yeah, I
that.
think that was a critical turn that was just missed, and now they have to go to game three. Wow. Because, yeah, he had the Simic Growth Chamber and the Field of the Dead. That makes 3 mana.
Yep.
He could have played the Azusa and then had more zombies for the swing bag.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was just kind of a. Unless we're missing something, may have been just a slight misstep on Ezra's side.
Well, we're going to see a game three then, which,
Yeah, was not necessarily expecting that. Felt like Ezra was going to be able to close that out, but
and again, like, props to Jason for, like, getting that Brazen Borrower down early and not, like, worrying about holding it for something that he might be able to tempo back out. Like,
agreed.
definitely just very smart to commit it to the board and get that pressure going.
Yep. Yeah, for players kind of playing these kind of mid-range decks like Bant Stoneblade, that's what a win looks like if you have enough counter magic to keep Titans off the board and you can get pressure on early, especially pressure in the air. The Amulet Titan deck does have a tough time dealing with aerial pressure. It can definitely clog up the ground with zombies pretty easily, but flyers are good.
Man, we're getting lucky on matches tonight. They're actually taking up the whole time.
Right.
That's pretty crazy. No backups yet.
Well, everybody's playing their mid-range piles. That's why. If we were seeing more of the kind of standard red aggressive stuff that we see here sometimes, or some burn matchups, we'd be getting doubles in. But
So Ezra on the play here is going to be kind of huge, right? Like getting to establish possibly an amulet.
so good question, Focus. Do we like Bant Blade or Bant Control better currently?
Uh,
I'm more into Bant Blade because I think even with a good Bant Control list, you're not going to be able to go over the top of decks like Amulet because being 3 colors, you're going to have an even harder time than blue white. Um, so I would prefer Bant Blade because I like the ability to have kind of a more aggressive game plan. But I'm also a player that plays Amulet Titan, and I like to kind of like prey on a lot of the decks that think that they can go over the top of Amulet Titan. But I really don't think there are hardly any decks in the format that can do it right now. Tron, I guess I would say can, but Amulet Titan is fast enough that it could
yeah,
still handle Tron.
yeah. I'm pretty sure if I were just approaching a straight control variant, I'd go blue white at this point.
Yep.
Maybe red, maybe, but I think blue white has a lot of cards
Yeah.
just available to it.
And I like Jeskai right now, honestly. If you're going to play a kind of like 3 color Stoneblade pile,
Ooh, yeah. Stoneblade. Jeskai sounds dope. So, turn one Field of the Dead. Turn one Temple Garden.
I think bolts are really solid in a meta where a lot of people are playing things like Devoted Druid combo and Amulet's playing like lots of little enablers and things like that. So,
Oh, okay. Force negation coming out for that amulet after all. I was just like, whatever. Still gonna play this tap land.
and I think Jason's making the correct choices here with the Force. You got to get that Amulet. It's one of the best targets for the Force. But yeah, do we have the follow-up pressure is the question.
I would love it if Lavinia got slammed right now.
It'd be cool.
I would be so on board with that play. Make that play, Jason. Surprise
I
me.
think again, I think it's like a next level sideboard card that I don't really see people bring in. Well, I don't see it in sideboards very often. Period. But
Right.
there have been times where I really think that. Let's take a look at Lavinia again. I really think that Lavinia is a decent choice if you're trying to kind of play this moderately disruptive Bant Stoneblade list against Amulet Titan.
Ancient Stirrings fired off with a blue floating. We will see a Talaria West. Green blue floating. Alright. Nothing to do with the blue mana that turn, but
Yeah, we'll have to see how Uro kind of pans out
I
as a
think Uro
card.
just goes straight into Amulet Titan, right?
I think it probably does too.
Oh
I
my
think it's pretty solid in
gosh.
Amulet Titan. I'm actually excited to start experimenting with Dryad of the Elysian Grove with Valakut in Amulet, just a single copy of Valakut.
Oh boy.
Because Amulet can pretty easily. I mean, Curran's quiet. Okay,
Oh.
there we go.
Thank you for that, Milo. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's better. Appreciate the feedback.
Cool. So
Oh yeah, if you're Jason, you just have to get pressure here. Like if we got to see a borrower played. It looks like, and I think Jason's obviously holding up counter magic. It looks like there was a Teferi in hand. So Jason may be feeling forced into holding up counter magic here, and it could be right. Um,
Summoner's Pact on the stack. It looks like Jason's fetching pretty aggressively to counter it.
that's exactly what you want to. If you're Jason, Ezra kind of just played exactly what you were fishing to have Ezra do. I'm wondering if Ezra should have just hung back and kind of made Jason make the first move here.
Yeah, I agree. I like Uro in the Amulet Titan. I think that would be his best place personally. That card seems nuts.
Yeah, Amulet Titan's gotten a lot of. Turns out Green's gotten a lot of love recently. Who knew?
Who knew? Wizard is aggressively trying to change the best color in the format argument from blue to green.
Yeah, I'm on board. So it looks like we're getting another Summoner's Pact from the T-West. This is so good for Jason because Jason gets to actually we actually get the pressure of having the spell queller now. We can actually start working on Ezra's life. Ezra obviously doesn't have an actual Titan in hand. It's just kind of continually trying to get Summoner's Pact.
In Modern, when Modern was first established, blue was a very good color. I don't know, like the control debt lists that were coming out, in my opinion, were pretty decent. Like these blue white red lists or blue white lists. Like at the very conception of Modern, I think blue is a pretty powerful color to tangle with. But I will say it did very quickly become green.
Yeah,
I
or
don't know.
I think red was extremely strong for a while with Faithless Looting as an enabler.
Yeah, that's true.
More as a splash color, I guess. But yeah, I think blue has been, yeah, yes, those were the days. Yeah, blue has been kind of a middling color for a bit in Modern. I think really
Twin
since
was also the sauce.
yes, yeah, good point. Yeah, Splinter Twin, and then most recently, obviously this Oko Urza deck. So. Blue's gotten some time to shine, but it has taken green along with it of late.
Yeah. I think a lot of us can agree on that.
Yeah.
White desperately needs some support.
I know. Really, it's Boros needs support. It's just.
Yeah, I haven't seen a good 3-drop for Boros since Mirren Crusader. When's the last time?
Yeah, Simic used to be like the hipsterest color combo, and now they get good things, so Boros is all that's left of the color combos with literally no identity and hardly any good cards. I always look up like good cards in Boros, and it's like Boros Charm. That's it. So, Ezra's Pact is resolving. We've looked through the deck once. Okay, Ezra, you have to play the Primeval Titan first. Yes, this happens in Amulet. You get ahead of yourself where you start just thinking about your line, and then you just like forget to make the spells happen and just start searching for things.
Yeah. Okay, now we're looking for lands. Now we're looking for lands.
So Jason deciding if they're going to maybe. What are we gonna do here? No, we have no mana up, so.
Is there an amulet? How many
Oh, this
counters
is
are on
good.
that thing?
Yeah, it was played this turn. So bounce it, then get the growth chamber. Those two lands should enter play tapped. Those two bounce
Yep.
lands, yep. And then so there's a red floating. You'll see Ezra activate the Sakura Tribe Scout, put that gemstone mine back, and then that'll give us the second mana we need to activate the Slayer Stronghold to give the Titan haste this turn. So
Beats.
you're kind of seeing, we saw previously that Jason was kind of nervous to tap out for anything, having the Spell Queller in hand, and got rewarded initially, and then tapped out for the Teferi, feeling like must have been kind of empty on counters, and then immediately is just like extremely punished. And once this kind of field chain gets rolling, this game becomes near impossible for Jason to come back from.
Yeah, I think I had mentioned that a few times already. That I like the idea of Uro inside the Amulet Titan shell somewhere.
Yeah, Apaka, are you talking about the like field, the slower like Field of the Dead shell without Amulet itself, or are you talking about actual Simic Amulet Titan? Because there's been like kind of a couple different decks running around, um, and I think Amulet Titan is the more powerful but maybe more easily disruptible deck, whereas the kind of Field of the Dead, just kind of slow ramping Oko decks, like Oko value decks, were much more difficult to disrupt.
EE on 0. I wonder how long you'll let that EE sit there.
So, yeah, in answer to your question, Apaka, I think Amulet is just a more powerful deck in general. However, if the format moves to a place where interaction is key, as we've gotten to a point where the Amulet Titan combo is still fast, but it's not the fastest, one of the fastest things you can be doing in the format. If you're seeing a lot of something like Infect and a lot of Devoted Druid combo, then I think that you will see people swing over to that Simic Titan list, playing things like Abrupt Decay and Fatal Push, playing more interactive elements um, to kind of be able to combat the faster combo decks in the meta. So I think it'll really depend on what your local meta looks like. But I would rather be on Amulet Titan kind of in a vacuum against a wide open field, as I think like the power of Amulet of Vigor plus bounce lands is still higher overall than kind of, turn 4 or 5. I guess occasionally turn 3 Titans that you can get with the non-Amulet version. Yeah,
So,
I think if anything is banned, at least my hope is that if anything is banned, it's Once Upon a Time. As I think that is the more egregious.
oh no.
We had
Dice spill
some dice
outside.
spillage, but everybody is working together to help out here.
This is a game store community. They know the pain of dropping their own dice boxes. quickly resolving the issue. All right. So blow up all zombies, including the new ones that got created off Titan.
That's a little surprising.
I mean, I can see it. I just don't know if Ezra has follow up as far as like Azusa or anything.
Yeah, as far as the bans, I think that Once Upon a Time is definitely going to go. I don't think it's long for Modern. And I think that that will actually help if we get to a point where we need to neuter stuff like Yawgmoth and Amulet Titan, then I think Once Upon a Time is a great way to do that because as I kind of talked about earlier in the stream, Amulet Titan has a ton of really strong natural predators. Blood Moon is amazing against the deck. Uh, there are a lot of ways to kind of counterplay this Amulet deck. It just crushes other mid-range piles. But it's not fast enough to compete with things like Infect. So I think there are plenty of ways to combat Amulet Titan as is, and yeah, if we see it go too far, then take out Once Upon a Time.
Coming in for some damage in the air.
And I actually think Veil of Summer is perfectly fine in Modern, personally. I think it's a strong card, but it specifically hoses two colors. So, and other colors have plenty of ways to work around it and do well against the Amulet Titan deck. So, welcome back, Fuzzy.
Welcome back.
So the players are in turns.
Yeah, it looks like turn 1 is on the table right now. I'm trying to figure that out.
Is anybody going to be able to assemble lethal here? I think if Ezra has a bounce land in hand,
He's getting 2 Field of the Dead triggers there.
yeah, and then we can do it again with the other Tribe Scout.
I think that one's Summoning Sick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Alright, we are on turn 2.
Coming in for 4 here.
I think ultimately Ezra wins this race and turns. It depends on how many lands that he can chain here.
Ezra is going to get only one more turn, though.
Right. So how many land drops can they theoretically make? 1, 2, 3. Assuming that there's no Azusa, we can make 6 zombies, which is not nothing to sneeze at.
Right, but with only one more attack step, I think that Jason can draw this game.
I'll be interested to see if the Sun Home comes into effect during combat.
Yeah, and the
Not.
Slayer Stronghold.
Yeah, like
So
it's gonna be weird, and I think the Sakuras will be priced to swing in as well. At
oh
that
yeah,
point.
if you're at turn 4, you just come in with everything.
Yeah.
Adding more zombies to the board for a turn that doesn't exist is not going to matter.
Well, yeah. Interesting bounce.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I would have selected that, but
Well, if Jason is trying to look for a winning line, maybe.
I guess the answer is Supreme Verdict that he's looking
Well,
for.
Jason can get 2 combat steps, so. Ezra's at 13. I was going to say if we could get a Brazen Borrower out, then it's only going to net us 3 damage, though.
That's a beautiful bird's
Yeah, I
paradise.
think we're going to see this. If Jason doesn't get too aggressive here, I think that we're just going to see this end in a draw.
I don't think Jason's in a position to swing knowing that more zombies are coming down, like 4 more.
Then the players have to decide if it's kind of one of those things. What do you do if you're in Jason's case? Do you like concede, kind of knowing that you would have lost if the game went on, or do you take your draw? Like what camp are
And
you
the
in?
1-0, I take my draw
Okay.
just because that's the kind of player I know I am.
Sure.
Like if I'm winning, If I'm 1-0, then I definitely take my draw and try to go 3-1 for the rest of the tournament. If I was losing, I would definitely be the nice guy and be like, "Yeah,
Mm.
you got it." Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I think it's one of those things where I don't think there's any like there's no clean etiquette for what you're supposed to do. Like, a draw is a legitimate conclusion to a game.
yeah. Even if that game could have ended in the next couple of turns or whatever, it's
Right.
just like, at this point, it's a draw. We've played our allotted time. Yeah, it looks like Jason's just gonna make it a draw and not concede here. That
So the thing
that is
is,
what I would do.
so what Ezra should do is give one of them both +2/+0 and double strike, and that's like a single zombie that wasn't blocked.
Is that lethal?
So that is lethal because that single
Wow.
zombie gets +2/+0 from the Slayer stronghold and
Yeah, and
then
then
gets
double
double
strike,
strike.
so
So
it gets in for 8 on its own.
right, and then there were another, I think, 2 unblocked zombies beyond that.
Wow. Ah, man. I'm glad that Ezra pulled that back out at the end, especially after game two, where there was just that heartbreaking window in which he could have assembled lethal.
Right.
So I'm glad that he was able to pull that back on turn four.
Yeah. So a really close match here. We're gonna be quickly following this up with another match. So we are just gonna take an extremely short break, and we will be back with round 3 at Modern Mondays.